Hi and welcome to another edition of Mailbag. Okay, this is Mailbag, common feature of the channel. It's where I attempt to answer questions that you guys have left on the channel, or if I can't answer them, I have a good go at answering them, or I throw them out to the wider Tubing community to try and answer on behalf of somebody who's raised the question. Now, we'll get into this mailbag. Remember, like, comment, subscribe to the channel. Go over to Instagram and follow me there. Go over to Facebook, follow me there. That's where the normal notices are. And consider becoming a Patreon. As always, we have a bumper-filled session of mailbag questions and answers that you guys have asked. So, without further ado, or should I say, we'll get into answering the first question. If I can pick the piece of paper up that has the question on it. And this is from Marcel Quinones in response to how to change the battery on the R8. A video I did Christmas 2020, and Marcelo writes, thank you for the video. I have a Roland R-8 and it is problem of random resetting to the default factory setup. It doesn't store the program patterns, user patterns. I open up the drum machine and change the battery with no positive results. Any thoughts, ideas, problem solving for this situation? Do you know a place that I can ship the unit to be completely checked and repaired correctly, thoroughly? Thank you. Actually, you know, these sort of questions are probably the hardest to answer. And I've got to be honest, in this situation, if changing the battery doesn't fix the problem, then you're starting to look at the circuitry. So the first thing I'll be looking at is, are the connections from the battery terminals actually getting through to the RAM chip where the data is stored? And for that, you're going to have to get the schematic of the R8 up and chase it through. But quite often what happens is when you open up the R8 and change the battery, first thing is, did you test that the battery that was in there was actually dud? So you need to get a voltmeter, something like this, maybe not as fancy as that, and you know, be able to actually test whether you're getting 3.2, or probably if it's not giving out any if it's not powering anything, it probably will be giving out slightly more than 3.2 volts. But you're looking for effectively about 3.2 volts on that battery. If you're down below 3 volts, 2.9, 2.8, then things start to tend to fail. So that's the first thing. Second thing is, I think when you've got the unit open, is to look around the battery holder. Is it correctly seated? Is it making contact with the board? Again, you might need to get a meter and trace the tracks to see if you've got continuity problems going on, which basically means getting the probes. One of these things here. I should have actually untangled my meter before I had another one here. I was using another one earlier on, but I've obviously put it down somewhere because I can't see it, obviously. If you need to get the probes and you need to trace through the track, all you need really is a continuity tester for doing that. You don't actually need a fancy meter like that, you just need a continuity tester. And if you've got anything like this, which is a cable tester, they have continuity testing. So there's 2 ports on that. There. Okay, and that comes with a continuity tester, so you can just basically plug a red and a black wire in there, stick it at either end of the track, and see if it goes buzz, which indicates that you've got a connection. If you don't get a connection between 2 ends of a track, more than likely the track is a problem. So I would look to do a continuity test to make sure that ground is ground and positive is positive, and you can then trace the positive through to the RAM chip, which is the volatile RAM chip that actually holds the pattern data and voice data. Does the RM have no pattern data? More on the R8 is held on that chip. And if you're not getting if you're not being able to trace continuity through, or you're not able to see 3 volts on the right leg of that chip, and again, what you'll have to do is get hold of the service manual and see if you can see the voltage there or a continuity to that particular point. Now, I've written in my notes very helpfully that I believe that the right chip to test in the service manual is pins 20 and 28 of IC10, which is probably meaningless unless you're actually looking at the circuit board, but that is the volatile memory chip where all these things are stored. And if you're not seeing continuity from the battery holder to there, or if you've got the battery in place, you're not seeing 3.2 volts on pins 20 and 28, then that would definitely indicate that you've got a problem in terms of the track continuity between the battery and there. Now, the problem with service centres are, as soon as you start going cross territory, it starts getting very, very expensive. There are a number of places within Europe that do service. Now, I don't know where you are. I'm just looking back at my notes. It doesn't actually tell me in my notes where you're coming from. So I don't know whether you're UK based, Europe based, or wherever. But the best thing to do is probably go onto a couple of Facebook groups and put a shout out on the Facebook groups wherever you are, and see who comes back and says this guy is good. The thing about the R8 is it's it's getting on, so you're looking for somebody who understands 80s 90s tech. It's not somebody who understands current stuff, but the skills are transferable. But somebody who is competent to be able to trace through the circuit, if you're not confident about tracing through the circuit and looking for dry joints and broken tracks. Now, what I will say about this is, if you're looking for a continuity problem, one of the things to look for, and I haven't got an example of it, I might be able to flash an example up there, is a dry joint looks, if you look very carefully at the solder, and you might need a magnifying glass, which is why I've got a magnifying glass hanging up behind me, so that you can actually magnify the tracks. What you're looking for is what looks like a crack in the solder joint. Now, if you see a crack in the solder joint, that would indicate it's a dry joint. And half the time, the easiest way to fix that is just get your soldering iron, get hold of some flux, and I should have some flux. Yes, I do. There you go. So this is the stuff that I use. That stuff there. Get hold of some of this. What you do is you just put that on top of the solder, heat the soldering iron up, touch the solder to the joint, and it will reflow the solder and fix your dry joint. Okay, quite often that is the problem, especially with legacy tech, especially if it's not been well treated, it's been bashed about a bit. The solder joints crack, or they just dry out. And it sounds daft, how can solder joints dry out? But they do. After time, and after being moved around, and after all this time that these things have been in existence, they move around, they crack, and it causes a problem. Especially where you've got going slightly off topic here, but especially where you've got sort of input-output devices, jack leads, that sort of stuff. Common problem, and all it takes is a service tech to take the back off the machine, look for those sort of telltale signs, and just reflow the solder. For a service tech, it's probably about an hour's worth of work, but obviously service techs can be expensive, so it's a job you can do yourself if you can identify it and you're comfortable using a soldering iron. Hope that has helped.